Good morning, everyone. We are in Ayin Amud Aleph. Zok the Gemara. We're going to have, I think, 11 or 12 cases today. Hahu Beisa Dahava Yase Bechamra di Yisrael. There was a house with Jewish wine. Al Ovei Kochavim. The Ovei Kochavim went into the house. Achta Ledasha Be'ape. What did he do? He locked the door behind him. V'hava Biza Bedasha. But thank God there was a hole in the door, a keyhole. Ishtakach Ovei Kochavim Dekai Bine Dani. So they saw that the Ovei Kochavim was hanging out near the barrels. Amarava Kol Delahade Biza Shari. Any barrels that you can see by looking through the keyhole, you can assume that he's not touching because he's worried that he's going to get caught, and therefore anything you can see through the keyhole, you can still drink. But the Haigisa, or anything that's out of the view, out of the range of looking through the keyhole, you have to be choshesh that he went ahead and he touched, and therefore you cannot drink it. Zok the Gemara. Hayhu chamra di Yisrael dava yasib bevesa. Dahavadar Yisrael belyona v'avekachavim betachtona. So I have a house, and my neighbors upstairs are Jewish, and my downstairs neighbors are Ovei Kochavim. And I have wine in my house. Again, these are all seemingly barrels of wine. Shamu kol tigra. So I went ahead and they heard the kol tigra. Nafke. So there was a lot of commotion outside, and outside there was a lot of noise. Nafke, and everybody ran out. Kadim asa Ovei Kochavim achta l'dash be'ape. So the Ovei Kochavim is always looking for a chance to touch the Jewish wine. He runs back inside and locks the door behind him. Amarava chamra shari. The chamra is still allowed. What does that mean? Why would it still be allowed? If the non-Jew ran inside and locked the door, why is the chamra allowed in my apartment? Meimer amar kiheche de kadim asay ana kadim ve'asi Yisrael v'yaseh belyona v'kachazili. That's why it's a case where there was a lot of commotion going outside, because when he ran inside, he didn't see whether the Jew from upstairs was inside yet or not. Therefore, when he runs inside, he's not sure if my Jewish neighbor upstairs ran in. Obviously, the case is where he doesn't know whether my Jewish neighbor ran in, and it's a case where my Jewish neighbor has a view of my apartment as well. Not so much privacy here, because my Jewish neighbor can see into my apartment. So at the end of the day, we assume that the wine is still allowed, because even though the non-Jew ran in and locked the door behind him, he's still thinking in the back of his mind, maybe my Jewish neighbor ran in before me, and he's watching me, and therefore I'm not going to go ahead and touch the wine that's out and about. Again, we're talking about my Jewish neighbor, the upstairs neighbor running in, and my Jewish neighbor, or my non-Jewish neighbor downstairs running in, and the non-Jewish neighbor downstairs will not touch my wine in the middle floor because he's afraid that my upstairs neighbor is there and is watching him. Says the Gemara, Hahu Shpiza. It's an inn. There was an inn with Jewish wine. Ishtakach Ovei Kochavim davayase beidani. So we found that there was a non-Jew in Ovei Kochavim that was sitting amongst the barrels of wine. Amarava. So here's what it matters. Im nitfas alav kigan of shari. If we can arrest him for being a ganav, then it's allowed. V'lo aser. What does that mean? Well, if we could arrest him because he doesn't belong in that place, so then we assume that he's stealing, and therefore we don't assume that he's bothering with doing yayin esech. But if we can arrest him because he has an alibi, as we'll see in a second, then we assume that he's going to touch the wine, and if he's caught, he's going to have his alibi. It's the same case as the next case, and then we'll discuss the exact details. Same way, except it wasn't an inn, it was a house. And you found a non-Jew in the house, and he was amongst the barrels. If he has an alibi, if he has a way to evade the burglary charge, then the chamer is asur. That's the equivalent of imlo in the other case asur. If we can't be nitfas him as a ganav because he has an alibi, it's one and the same, then the wine will be mutter. However, then it'll be asur v'lo chamer shari. But if he has an alibi, if he doesn't have an alibi, and therefore nitfas alaf kiganav, then it's allowed. And again, the reason for both of these cases is because if he can be caught as a ganav and he has no alibi, then we assume that he was going inside to steal, and when we catch him, we assume that he was going to steal and not to touch the wine, and therefore the wine is fine. But if he had an alibi that he was inside the inn, or he was inside my house because he was running away from the bandits that were outside or something, or there was a terrible storm or something, if he has an alibi, then the thing is going to be usher, because we assume that he went in, even though there was storm outside, but he went in specifically to touch the wine, and therefore it's going to be aser. Meisvei, the problem is we have another brisa that says nin ala punda kosha omalo shamor aser, that if he locks the door of the inn, or if I, the Jew, say, please watch my wine for me, then it's aser. I don't understand. If he locks the inn, my lava afagav de lasle lishtemute, it implies that he locks the door no matter what. It doesn't give any specific cases. It sounds like he locks the door even without an alibi, then it'll still be aser. Lo b'de'isle lishtemute. No, it's only aser when he has an alibi, again, because he's not afraid to touch it, because he can always say, I was just in here because I got lost. But if he has no alibi, then if we catch him, then if we see him with the barrels, we assume that he went to steal them, and he's not bothering with the yayin nesach. That's the bottom line. Alibi, you can't drink the wine. He doesn't have an alibi, we assume he's going to steal it, not to pour it for yayin nesach, therefore you could drink the wine. There was a Jew and a non-Jew that were sitting and drinking wine. Shama Yisrael katzluye be'kenishta. So here it's a little bit different in the case that it seems like this is not a case of a barrel. This is literally where the wine is right in front of them. Well, actually, it's not true, as we'll see in a second. I want to say the opposite. Really, it sounds like it's still a case of a barrel, because if it was just a case where the guy ran out for 1 second, and if it takes 1 second for him to touch it, it's aser. So it sounds like all these cases are barrels where it would take him more than a little bit of time to be able to go ahead and touch it. He heard them davening in the shul, and he ran out. Kam va'azal. Amarava chamar shari. It's still allowed. Why? Meimar amar, because the Ovei Kochavim will not touch it. He'll say, Hashta mitkar le'lechamri v'adarase. No Jew goes to shul without wine. Of course, when he gets to wine and he goes to the Kiddush Club in shul, he's going to realize, where's my wine? He's going to run back to the house, and he's going to come to get his wine. Therefore, Lamaisa, we assume that he's not going to touch it, because again, all of these cases, Mirsus, he's afraid to touch the Jew's wine.
It says it's possible, even if they have 2 bottles of wine, not just a barrel.
Not a barrel, even a bottle. Okay. But is it closed? It's closed or it's open? You're saying it's open. Okay. Could be. There was a Jew and a non-Jew on a boat. This is the source of all those jokes. Zog the Gemara, Shama Yisrael kal shipurei de beis shimshei. It's Erev Shabbos, and he hears the shofar like in Yerushalayim that it's time for Shabbos. What happens? So he goes ahead and Amarava nafak va'azol. So the Jew gets off the boat and goes to shul. Amarava chamer shari. You could still drink the chamer. That's a chiddush. Why? Meimar hashta mitkar le'lechamri v'adarase. Because the Jew is going to go to shul. Here he hears the thing. He's going to start walking to shul. He's going to forget his wine. V'imishum shapta. But the Gemara says, I understand. The non-Jew knows that it's Shabbos. He knows the Jew's not coming back on the boat on Shabbos. So what's pshat that he's allowed to drink the wine when you come back after Shabbos? Somebody say he knows you're not going to come back the whole Shabbos. Amar Rava, listen to this. This is fascinating. Amar li Isser Giura. Isser the ger said to me, Ki avinan be'ar miyusan. Before I became a ger and I was not Jewish, Amrinan. This is what the non-Jew think in general. Yehudai lo mintere shabta. The non-Jew think that the Jews don't keep Shabbos. The mintere shabta, what's the proof? Because if they really kept Shabbos, kamakise kamishtakeche b'shukah. The non-Jews go around on Friday afternoon and they look around the streets looking for money, looking for wallets, because they know that there must be Jews who are coming late from work. And therefore, Lamaisa, if they don't find any wallets, it must be that the Jews don't really keep Shabbos. We always say that it's harder to work for a Jew that's not from right. Sometimes when you work for them, so like if I could keep it, but if you don't keep it, you don't keep it. Fine, you have to keep Shabbos. But if I don't keep it, you don't have to keep it either. So over here, it's similar, where you have you have the goy that's basically saying the Jews don't keep Shabbos. It must be that the Jews don't keep Shabbos, because at the end of the day, there would be money sprawled all over the place every Friday afternoon. They go out every Friday afternoon, they look up the candlelighting time on the real estate magnet, and they go out and they look for money, and there's no money in the streets.
The Jews hide it.
So the Jews hide it well, but the problem is that they know it's Shabbos, so it must be that they don't keep Shabbos. So if they don't keep Shabbos, then what? If they don't keep Shabbos, so then there's a chance that the guy's going to come back on the boat, and that's why you're allowed to drink the wine. But that's fascinating, that we're allowed to drink the wine because of the fact that the non-Jew think that we don't keep Shabbos. Because if they thought that we kept Shabbos, then in Ein HaChanami we would not be able to drink the wine, because they would think that, or they would know that we're not coming back. V'lo yadana, this is either the Gemara talking or Isser Giyura talking. But it sounds like it's a Gemara saying, V'lo yadana disfir like Rabbi Yitzchak. They don't know one thing, that we hold like Rabbi Yitzchak, Dam Rabbi Yitzchak, Amotzi, Kis B'Shabbos, Malicho, Pachos, Midalad Amos. You can move it less than Dalad Amos at a time. So Ein HaChanami, the reason that you don't find the Kissim is not because the Jews are not coming home late from work on Friday, but it's because even if they come home late from work, they could drop their kiss and they can go ahead and they can kick it slowly to their house, piece by piece. Zak the Gemara. So there was a lion that was hanging out outside the wine press. Shama v'kachavim tasha b'nei dani. So the Avichavim saw the lion and he ran inside for cover. Amarava chamer shari. It's still mutter. So it's interesting. We're not talking about here having a alibi or not, because again, it seems like if it was based on the alibi, then we would say that the chamer would be usher. He has a good alibi here. He's running inside because of the lion. Once I'm in here, I'll touch all the wine, because if they ask me what I'm doing here, I'll just say there was a lion outside. So why is the wine allowed? Says the Gemara, Meimer Amar ki echi de tishina ana, it shanam bi Yisrael achorei v'kachazile. Because he figures he's not going to touch the wine, because if I came in here to hide from a lion, there must be a Jew that came in here to hide from the lion as well, and therefore he's hiding somewhere among the barrels and he's watching me and he'll see. They obviously were scared of being caught of touching the wine.
More than the lion.
More than the lion. They were more, yeah.
So see, when the story is true, it's permitted. When the story is false, it's not permitted.
Again, when he has an alibi, it's not permitted. When he doesn't have an alibi, it's permitted.
Yeah, but now the story is true, right? And
no, the point is that it doesn't matter over here. It should be aser because he has an alibi. The reason that it's mutter is because of another reason to make it mutter, because he's afraid that there's a Jew that's hanging out in the barrels as well. Hanuganve desalki lepumbediso paschu chabisa tuva. This is Geshmak. So there's a bunch of Ganavim who went to Pumbedisa and they started opening up all the barrels of wine. Amarava Chamar Shari. It's allowed. What do you mean it's allowed? For sure they poured wine in Yain Esech. My time, Baruch Hashem, Ruba Ganve Yisrael Dinu. Baruch Hashem, most of the Ganavim in Pumbedisa are Jews. Therefore, you have to watch your stuff, but you can drink the wine.
But we said Jews could be avodah zarah.
Right, but we're not worried that they're avodah zarah. We're not worried. These are good Jews. These are Ganavim. These are the good ones. They only steal. They don't worship avodah zarah. Hava Uvda ben Ardai. There was the same thing in Ardai. V'Amar Shmuel Chamar Shari. He said it's mutter. Problem is in Ardai we wasn't as Geshmak. In Ardai, Ruba of the Ganavim were not Yisrael. So why were they allowed to drink the wine? So Kiman, who's just like Rabbi Eliezer, the Amar Safek Bia Tahor. This is very complicated, but we'll simplify it. Rabbi Eliezer says Safek Bia is tar. If you're not sure whether somebody came in or not, it's going to be tar. So over here, where we're not sure, even though we know that they're non-Jews, we're not sure that the non-Jews came in and touched the wine, we're going to say tar. Where do we see Rabbi Eliezer hold this? It's not. Hanichnas lebika biyamos hageshamim vituma bisade plonis. If you go into a bika, which is a bunch of fields at the time of the geshamim, Rashi points out it's the time of the geshamim because you're not allowed to walk through people's fields at the time of the geshamim. You're only allowed to use the paths, the private paths at the time, not geshamim. So at the time of the geshamim, we consider all of these fields to be rishos hayachid. Safek tumah b'rishos hayachid is tamei. Zok the Gemara hanichnas lebika b'mos hageshamim. If I go into a bunch of these fields b'mos hageshamim and there happens to be a dead body in one of the fields, but I don't know which field it is, v'tumah b'sad plonis v'amar halachti b'makom alaz v'ni yodem nichnasi lo sasadim lo nichnasi. So we know which field has the mace in it, but the guy doesn't know whether he went into that field or not. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Safek bia tar. This is considered to be a case of Safek bia because we're not sure whether he went into the field with the thing. Again, that entire field does not have a mace. There's a mace in one field of a whole group of fields. He's not sure whether he went into that field with the mace. That's going to be a Safek. Safek bia, whether he went in or not, that's going to be tar. And therefore over here as well, Safek, whether the Oved Kachavim went in and touched the barrels, that's going to be tar. Safek maga tame. But Rabbi Eliezer agrees that if it's a Safek, that he knows he went into that field. The question is, did he walk over the spot where the dead body was? That he's going to be machmir for it. But Safek bia, if we're not sure whether he went into the field at all, that's going to be tahor. Says the Gemara, therefore we clearly see that our case over here is Rabbi Eliezer as well, because there's no other reason why, when all of the rove of the Ganavim are non-Jews, there's no reason why we should permit the wine, except for the fact that we say that there's a Safek whether they actually went in to touch the wine or not. Says the Gemara, lo, no, we don't say that. What? Shani hasam kevan de'ika de pische l'shum mamona havile sveik sveika. Gemara says it's the same din. We're going to say that the barrels are mutter, but we're going to say it could be even within the Rabbanan. Because we said it must have been within Rabbi Eliezer, because he tells us if we're not sure whether they came to open up the barrels, then Lamaisa, it's going to be okay. What does it mean we don't know whether they came or not? It means we don't know whether they were Jews or whether they were non-Jews who came to open up the barrels. So you have a suffix here. So when you have a suffix bio, we have a suffix whether non-Jews came to actually open up the barrel. We know the barrels were opened, but we don't know whether, we can't say Ruba Yisrael. So now we still have a question, was it Jews or was it non-Jews? Sounds like maybe it was 50-50. So we say suffix bio according to Rabbi Eliezer is tar. We're not sure whether non-Jews came, therefore it's going to be tar. It's not like the Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, no. In this case we could say it's even like the Rabbanan, because there's really two suffix here, and even Rabbanan who hold that suffix bio is tameh, in this case they agree it's tar. Why? Because what are we choshesh for? We're choshesh, Rabbanan would be choshesh that maybe the non-Jews came. According to Rabbi Eliezer, we're not choshesh, suffix bio is tar. But according to Rabbanan, it should be suffix bio is tameh, and therefore the bottle should be tameh. Why in this case do we assume that even if it was an Ove Avodah Zarah that who opened up all these barrels, why are we assuming that Rabbanan would agree that the barrels are still good? Because we assume that when they open up the barrels, since they opened up so many of them, we can have the assumption that when you're opening up a lot of barrels, you're not doing it for yain nesach. Why are you opening up a lot of barrels? What are you looking for? You're looking for money, and therefore, at the end of the day, since there's a suffix whether it was a non-Jew in the first place, that suffix by itself would have said that the wine is aser. But since there's another suffix whether they were actually doing it for yain nesach or they were just doing it for money, since they opened up so many barrels, that's a sfeik, and even Rabbana would agree. So that's what it means. Lo means that it doesn't have to specifically be Rabbi Eliezer. You can say that this works within the Rabbanan as well. Another case, Hahi Rabisa dishtakach dahavas beidane. There was a small oved avodas kochavim, a baby, 6 years old, 7 years old. Nikito pia biada. She was amongst the barrels of the Jew, and she was holding the foam of the wine in her hand. Amarava chamar shari. It's allowed to drink it. How could you go? Amar migba de chabisa shaklasei. She took it from the outside. The foam foamed out. We said yesterday there were holes for the air. The foam came out of the barrel, and she took it from outside the barrel, not from inside. Even though there's no more foam, Amar isrume isrami la. It just happened that the foam came out. Why do we use a case of a child? Because we assume that if it was a case of an adult, we have to be choshesh that they learned that they should be ruin all of the Jews' wine, and therefore we have to assume that they stuck their hand actually in and got the foam. But over here,
let's say she did.
If she did, then it would be a problem. But we don't assume that she did.
But she's a little tinokus.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Baby.
What?
Over
so that's the point. Oh, you're saying if she would have.
What would be the worst thing?
So it sounds like we would have to be choshesh that if she stuck it in and she was doing it for the purposes of avodah zarah.
They learn early.
Baby?
They learn early.
Young girl.
They learn incantations.
No, but his point, right, but that's what Rashi says. V'dafka Rabbi said, De'ena yodas betiv nisach, v'lamasra nafsha leminga, v'agadola michi chazina denakta. No, so Rabbi Black is asking, though, if that's true, that she doesn't know. So what's the difference if she put her hand inside anyway? He's saying that the point is that she's young, so she doesn't do for nisach. But if she doesn't do for nisach, so then it shouldn't matter if she takes the foam from outside. She should be able to stick her hand in also. And if she sticks her hand in also, unless we said, I don't remember, unless we said that there was a gezerah across the board. Says the Gemara, Hu pulmusa. What's that? A general in the army. Desalik l'narda. He went to Narda, paslu chabisa tuva, and he opened up a lot of the chabisim. So what's the problem here? This
Tosfot says today, even the big ones, they don't know how to do nisach. At the end of the Tosfot. And
therefore it would be okay. Okay? So we have this general that went in. We have this general, so for sure it would be okay to stick your hand in, even he's saying.
Exactly.
So you have the general that a general that goes in and opens up a lot of barrels. He said it's okay. Why is it okay if the general goes in? So there's two possibilities. First of all, we don't know whether what's the suffix bia? We don't know whether he was a Jew or not, right? Which is interesting. We don't know whether the Rosh was a Jew or not. That's what Rashi says. And suffix bia is tar. We don't know if he came in. Or Or you could say what? Or you could say that the reason it's allowed is because rove of the generals are Yisrael. If rove of them are Yisrael, then there's still a suffix bia. That's not a suffix bia, suffix magahu. Says the Gemara, no. The other side is kevan de miftachei tuva ema daita de mamona pischu suffix bia dami. No, the two studim that to say that it's shari is because either it's Rabbi Eliezer de Amar suffix bia tahor, or you could say that since they opened up so many of the barrels, they clearly were looking for the money, and therefore, again, seemingly like the Rabbanon, that even if you say suffix tahor, suffix bia is tameh, you could still say that since they were looking for money, so we're not going to say that it's going to be a problem. Hahi misubisa de masrala iklidi. Rashi, the Mesorah takes out miftcha. It's the same thing. Lavod kochavim. So you have a person, you have a storekeeper, a Jewish storekeeper, who gives the key to the non-Jewish neighbor. This is similar in Yana Dioma like mechiras chamich. You're going away, so you give the key to your house to your non-Jewish neighbor. Amar Yitzchak Amar Lazar Uvda Hava Bei Midrash Amar Lo Masala Ela Shmiras Mafteach Bilvad. You don't have to be worried that they're going to go into your store and touch all the wine. You're just giving them to watch the key. You don't have to be worried that they're actually going to go in. They're afraid to go into your store and take stuff. Amar Bai Afan Anami Tanina Moser Maftechos Le Ama Aretz Tarosav Taharetz Vishalo Masala Ela Shmiras Mafteach Bilvad. Similarly, if you give your key to an Ama Aretz who's choshesh to be tamei, you don't have to worry that if you have taharos in your house that he walked into your house and touched the taharos. Says the Gemara, Hashta tarosav tahoros yayin nesach mibai. Now the Gemara is saying, well, now that your tarosav are tar, so you don't need yayin nesach. So that sounds like what? it sounds like once I know that you don't have to be choshesh for an aretz, so that's a lot. That's a very deep assumption. We're assuming that an ama aretz is the same as an ovei kochavim, and we're assuming that if an ama aretz, we don't have to be worried for an ama aretz touching your tahoro. So then for sure you don't have to be worried about an ovei kochavim touching your yayin. L'meimer de taros alimim yayin nesach. Are you telling me that taros is more strict than yayin nesach? Yes, we clearly see that we treat taros more strictly, and therefore, at the end of the day, if we're not going to be choshesh by your ama aretz neighbor for touching your taros, then we're not going to be choshesh for your ovei kochavim neighbor touching your wine and pouring it again when you give him the key. Seemingly because we know that they're afraid. I mean, the reason would be that the svara would be that they're afraid to go into your house without permission. Yes, where do we see that we're very machmir on taharos? De'idmar chatzer shachalka b'misifas. We know that we have a chatzer that was split with a boundary. It means that there wasn't a wall, there was just a chatzer, and in the middle there was a line between my property and your property. Amarav tarosav temeos. What happened? On one side of the property was a regular Jew, on the other side was an ama aretz. So Rav says that the tarosav are temeos, uve'oved kochavim eina osei yayin nesach. That if you have a Jew next to another Jew, an ama aretz, we have to assume that the ama aretz touched the Jewish person's stuff, and therefore his taros are temeos. But we're not going to be machmir if you have a Jew next to an oved kochavim. We're not going to assume that the oved kochavim touch your stuff and pour it if yayin nesach. So you clearly see that we're more machmir by taharos. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan amar af tarosav tahoros. Rabbi Yochanan says that even the taharosav are taharos, and we're not going to be machmir even by the ama aretz. Meisvei, but we have a problem. Hapnimish shel chaver v'achitzona shel ama aretz, oso chaver shotech sham peretz u'meniach sham kelim v'api sheyodo shel ama aretz magas hasham. The pnimis is a chatzer. What happens is you have a road like this, Rishus Harabim. The one closer to the road belongs, that's the chitzonis, that's the ama aretz, and the pnimis is the chaver. Why do we say it like that? Because now the ama aretz has no excuse to be able to go into the chaver's property. If the ama aretz was on the inside, he would have to pass through the chaver's property every single time he goes to Rishus Harabim. But over here, when the ama aretz is on the outside, closer to the road, and the chatzer of the chaver is on the inside, he has no excuse. So if he's caught, he's going to be afraid to be caught. So if you have the pnimis of the chaver chitzonis shel ama aretz, also chaver shotech sham peretz u'meniach sham kelim, v'af al pi sheyodo shel ama aretz magas hasham. Even though the ama aretz can really touch his stuff, he's afraid to come into my property because he has no business going that way. He only has an excuse to go that way. Kasha l'Rav, that's a kasha to Rav who says what? That tarosav is tameo, so we have to assume that the ama aretz is actually going to touch my stuff. Amar l'charav shani asam shenitfas alav kiganav. No, in general, we have to be worried. But over here, where he has no business going into my property, there he's not going to do it because he's going to get caught and he's going to be considered to be a ganav. But in the case where you have two people that are next to each other with a boundary in between them, so it seems like there would be a reason to be able to walk over, and you could say, well, I dropped something or something. I don't know exactly. And you would think that you could say the same thing going backwards, but it sounds like when they're next to each other, there's less of a way to accuse him of stealing. I don't know, I'm just giving an example, like when you have the yards and you play football. So play football this way. So if the ball goes into his property that way, one can argue. But going backwards, so you don't have to argue, even though one would have thought that they can argue that as well. But Rav clearly says that when you have the chatzer that's next to each other, so he's not going to be suspected of being a ganav, and therefore he will go into the other property and you have to be choshesh. But when the property is behind, then he will be choshesh to go into the property because at the end of the day, he's going to be suspected of being a ganav. Zok the Gemara Tashma. Rashbag Omer Gogo Shel Chaver L'Mala Migago Shel Ama Aretz. What happens if you have the gag of a chaver on top of the gag of an ama aretz? Also chaver shotech sham peretz meniach sham kelim v'achlo teyodo shel ama aretz magas sham. You have to make sure that the ama aretz can't touch it. That's a kasha to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says we're not worried that an ama aretz is going to go ahead and touch the stuff in the field next to him that belongs to the chaver. Amalach Rabbi Yochanan shani asan deislei lishtemute meimer amar imsurei kamim matzra. Fascinating. He says over here that when the two things are next to each other, so in that case, Rabbi Yochanan says it's mutter because we go ahead and he's never going to touch your stuff because he has no excuse to reach over the boundary when your field is next. He has no excuse to reach over the boundary and start touching your stuff. Why when he's underneath you does he allow to, why when he's underneath you are we choshesh? Because he has an excuse. What's the excuse that he's sticking his hand up? He could claim, oh, I'm measuring, I want to do some construction in my apartment, I'm measuring like this, and I want to go ahead and touch. Therefore, he pretends to be measuring, he touches your stuff, and he goes and he parcels your stuff because it's tameh. But in the other case, where they're next to each other, there's no excuse, and therefore he won't try any of those shenanigans because he's going to get caught and be accused of stealing. Tashma, one more proof. Gago shel chaver b'tzad gago shel amaretz. If you have two roofs, like in Thornhill, right next to each other, the gag of a chaver and the gag of an amaretz. Oso chaver shotech sham peres meniach sham kelim. V'afal pisha yodesh shel amaretz magas hasham. You don't have to be worried about the amaretz reaching over to the chaver. Kashil Rav. Rav says on top you have to clearly be worried that he's going to reach over. He could say, no, I hold like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel in this case, and therefore you can't ask a kasha on me.
How do we allow a goy access to our house for the chametz?
Seemingly he would have to go with somebody. In a Hanami. Yeah, I say that, and whenever people do the Smichuras Chametz, so in Queens, when I was in Queens, so we used to go. We would take the guy to somebody to one or two houses during Chol HaMoed, and we would go with him, and he would take the whatever schnapps he wanted. He would take a shot. Yeah, we went. He went on Chol HaMoed, and he took schnapps. He took a thing of schnapps to show everyone. You don't know whose house he's going to come to, and then you have to pay a few dollars afterwards to pay for the schnapps. To pay for the schnapps. I still have 4 minutes. Zak the Mishnah. Boleshe shenichnasa li'ir b'shas shalom chavios psuchos asuros tumos mutaros. So the boleshet is the army. If the army comes into the ear at a time of peace, so then the open barrels are going to be a problem because we assume that they're going to go in and they're going to pour them. They have no rush. It's a time of peace. They're going to use them, pour them for yain nesach. Stumos mutaros, but the stumos are still going to be mutter. Maybe going back to what we said yesterday, it depends how much time you give them to play with it. B'shas milchama, but at the time of war, elu ve'elu mutaros, even the barrels that are open are going to be okay because of fisha ein penai l'nesach, because there's no time to go ahead and pour yain nesach during a time of battle. But in a chanami, if it wasn't a time of battle and they're open, it would be aser. Shkayach.